Good morning, good day, good afternoon, good evening, whatever it is. We have this thing called the left and right of politics. A little bit of history will tell you that the right are the ones who sit on the side of angels and the ones who sit on the side of devils, according to the French Catholic government. But it's come a long way since then. The left has become to mean those people in the 19th century who created the socialist parties, or learnt from Marx and Dickens about the exploitation of the worker, and they began to unionize to create so they work together as a collective, so they could bargain as a collective for the benefit of the whole of the workforce, which was a brilliant and amazingly wonderful thing, and we're all very, very grateful they did that. Otherwise people would be a lot poorer and far worse off than they are now, without bringing in that, if you like, Christianization of the idea that you have a conscience about exploitation. Everyone exploits something to get wealthy. Getting wealthy is a very, very good thing. Having that ambition and drive is a wonderful thing. I am Graham Gordon Thomas, the rational environmentalist, and I'm going to try and put some new light on this thing called the left in today's world. Left in today's world are, in a word, exploiting the less well off, the worker, the pensioner, the poorer woman with children. The left, who say they stand for women, are causing more and more women to suffer hardship, because the left, who are the ones who are making all the noise in the ABC and in the media and in the work in the public service, or these privileged jobs where they get a nice salary, live in comfortable homes, and they are consumers. That's what they are. And they're consumption. That they're materialists. And actually Christianized the idea of socialism. They're just consumers. They're materialist socialists, which is a totally different thing, because they're just into the idea what material or what financial gain they can get out of the rest of the population that is working. So the ones that call themselves in the left, in the Labour Party and the Greens, just as much as the Liberals, are into exploiting the worker, the unemployed, the pensioner, the less well off, the people on the streets or homeless, as anyone else. And they've done this by using the idea that we're going to save the climate from getting warmer by putting up the price of electricity, so that then, and the government's passing, the people in these leftist parties signing contracts that allow electricity companies to lift up the price of electricity each year by more and more and more, and while the people who are getting worse and worse off because of this, the worker, the pensioner, the unemployed and the homeless, are going to become more of them, because the left, the people in the left and Labour and the Greens, are exploiting these people. They're living off the back of them. They're not actually struggling. The left used to be about the struggle, the workers struggling for their rights to be able to feed their kids and live in comfort and have a basic living standards. Now, this left is about living as rich as the right, and they've combined with the right, the Liberal Party and Labour, ALP and the Greens have basically combined to sponge and live and exploit the worker and the small business people, and even medium-sized and large businesses. Large businesses are international, they can look after themselves. The medium and small businesses are very vulnerable now, and therefore all their workers are vulnerable because of the price of electricity put up to indulge people who think by putting up the price of electricity, or so they say, would save a climate, when it's nothing to do with climate at all. It's about exploitation of people who've got no choice whatsoever but to buy electricity. It's not like you have a choice and it says, I won't buy electricity today. You have no choice but to use this, or go without many things. You can't cook your dinner, you can't warm your hot water, you can't heat your house or whatever. all those things are required, and run your factories and run your shops and everything, all required. And the people, these left, so-called Marxists, or not really Marxists at all, they just put that label on themselves, they're sort of like wolf in sheep's clothing, if you like. They're just saying, oh no, you can't deny, if you question their motives or question anything about climate change theory, they say you're a denier, and they all shout at you, and they all deny it. You call you a denier, and well, no one's actually denying the climate may be changing. That's not what people like myself are saying. We're saying, well, hang on a minute, why are we wrecking people's lives and creating more and more poverty because of an idea that might save the climate? How creating poverty saves the climate is beyond my understanding. Now, but human beings are not beyond my understanding, because I've written a book on evolution, and I am also a Christian, in that I think there should be moral standards applied to democracy, so that people get a conscience about who they're exploiting and to the limits they exploit people. The fact is that no green, no left, no right have said, well, there should be a limit to how much people can be charged, or poor can be charged for electricity, is in itself suspicious. Why no one thought of that? If they're into equality, equity, into fairness and justice, which was Marxism was about, and socialism was about social justice and economic justice to a degree, why didn't they write these contracts with these power companies so that the power companies cannot exploit the homeless, unemployed, the pensioner, the less well off, the small business? And if you think the homeless aren't affected, yes, the homeless are affected, because the more it costs society to pay for its electricity bills, the less chance, that means more finance is consumed, or money is consumed, or currency is consumed paying for power bills, so there's less currency available to create new housing, to put the homeless in places where they can live, in a house, in other words. And that's this, right? The people in the public service and the Labour Party and the Greens, they get the money from exactly the same place as the people in the homeless people do. It's from borrowed money. It's from the redistribution of currency through the fiscal system. Money comes into the government, in the Federal Reserve, or wherever money comes in, currency comes in, and it's distributed through the FPOS machines, that's all it is, into people's bank accounts. Why there's so much disparity allowed amongst, and why so-called Marxists, they're all in the universities saying they're Marxists. They're not Marxists. They don't understand Marxist is not about exploitation of the poor, the homeless, the unemployed and the pensioner. Marxism is about protecting those basic immunities of people. That's what Marxism was about. There's Christian, I think there's Christian Marxism, put it this way, there's Christian Marxism and there's materialistic Marxism. And these lefts and greens and the government and the liberals are materialistic Marxists. In other words, they've sort of become capitalists themselves, exploiting, using the idea of climate change to exploit everyone else where they're living off it. They're getting, they can afford the electricity bills and other people can't. If they're into equality, the first thing you do, what is the most fundamental thing to everyone, is electricity. That's your distribute. Never forget money. It's not about money. It's can you afford your power bills. That's where your distribution ought to be considered. And because they haven't done that, it's all highly suspicious, duplicitous, and this thing called the ABC, whoever they are, not once do they allow this sort of conversation. Not once in at all. I don't watch the ABC anymore because it's offensive in that it doesn't allow any intelligently constructed conversations that explain things to people. It's just like a bat and ball game for them. Or Tony Jones controlling the audience and controlling the panel so they don't get out of hand and say things he doesn't want them to say, because he's just a control unit. That's all he is. And let's just say things for what they are. ABC never allows and the government and the media does not allow the sort of conversations that I'm trying to present to people, because, well, I don't know why, because they're afraid. They're afraid someone's going to, give them the sack or tap them on there, afraid of speaking freely. This is what free speech is for, and it's why they're trying to control it. Don't let them control your free speech, and don't let them control your question, and everyone needs to question what is equality today when it comes to electricity. So let's start something where we ask the government to charge pensioners and unemployed and low income people a set amount per week for their electricity, so at least they can keep warm in winter, and have it's not going to affect the rest of their income, because otherwise it's all unfair. How long will this go on? How many people will be caused hardship on the name of climate change? How many people are the government and all these politicians and people in universities and the ABG willing to sacrifice in the name of climate change, when they're not making any sacrifices whatsoever? This is the first time in history that people are sacrificing in others who are not interested in their cause. They're not making any sacrifice themselves, and basically that sums it up what it's all about. Selfishness. Selfishness. If they cared about people, then they would make equal sacrifice as everyone else. It's that simple. If they were Marxists, we're all in this battle against climate together, they would make the same sacrifices as everyone else, and not just expect the other half of the population doing all the productive work make the greater amount of the sacrifice. Surely that's not Australian. Surely that's exploitation. Surely it's about time people had that sort of conversation. Anyway, I am Graham Gordon Thomas, the Rational Environmentalist, and it's such a beautiful day. It's probably time to go for a walk.